Hello, welcome back to Learning Curves. I'm Anastasia, and today we're going to talk about words. Words that have to do with making things. Two of my favorite things coming together. If only there was like a puppy in there. And broccoli. I know. I really do love broccoli. I'm not exactly sure which order we are in the videos that I've created and am creating and that we're posting, but it's very possible that next week we're going to start our first project. So exciting. So a lot of the words that I'm teaching you in this video, or reminding you of, depending, in this video are words that we're going to be using going forward in projects. Most of these words have to do with fabric. So the first we're going to talk about is right side and wrong side. This will be very important as we are assembling projects. So if you're sewing two pieces of fabric together that you're going to turn inside out so that your seams are hidden, the right side is the side you want to be looking at when your project's finished. The finished, beautiful, correct side. It's not right and left, it's right as in correct. The correct side, which of course it is because the opposite of it is the wrong side, the side that you want hidden inside of your project. There are some instances where you'll just use one ply of fabric. Think about like maybe a napkin, a cloth napkin for a table, where you might fold the edges in. Curtains or bedding, like sheets, those are one ply of fabric, right? You don't have two pieces you're stitching together like a pillowcase, but the inside of the pillowcase would be the wrong side and the outside is the right side. So it's important to know right side and wrong side of fabric. Next, let's talk about the grain of your fabric or the direction of your fabric. So most fabric that is woven has threads that go up and down and threads that go side to side. This is called the straight of grain. If you are aligned with the thread in the weave, it is called the straight of grain. When you are at a 45-degree angle, when you are this way, this is the weave, and you are this way, that is called the bias. And the fabric is going to move very differently, especially in garments. I'm sure you've heard about bias cut garments. Maybe you haven't, I don't know. But when it's on the bias, it moves a lot differently. So there's something that we'll use eventually in a sewing project called bias tape, and that is strips of fabric that are cut on the bias of the fabric. So not up and down, not side to side, specifically on that angle, perpendicular. 45-degree angle? Oh gosh, this is so embarrassing. Yeah, 45-degree angle, not a 90. 100% correct. 40% embarrassed. There are some fabrics where it doesn't really matter. I used felt to make some superhero capes for my daughter's birthday last year, and those don't have a right way or a wrong way. It's just felted together. It's not a woven fabric going here and here. Okay, so now we've talked about the front, the back, the direction. Now we're going to talk about the edges. So fabric is made at different widths. There are certain standard widths, 60 inches. I want to say a home furnishing fabric, like upholstery fabric, is like 72, I think. And then a lot of those quilt fabrics are like 44, 42 inches. The sides of them, you'll see, are not usually usable. It's holding that weave together. Some fabrics fray really easily. I have an outdoor fabric for some outdoor cushions that I'm using that, she cannot wait to fray. To keep those sides from fraying, I don't know what they do, but I know it's called the selvage, and you can't salvage it in projects. You can use it as part of your seam allowance, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the edge that it is cut is called the cut edge or the raw edge, most often the raw edge. We're gonna also come back in just a moment to another usage of raw edge. So we've got right side of fabric, wrong side of fabric, straight of grain, bias. Is this a dance? Selvage, raw edge, and then when you put your wrong sides together and you stitch them together, you can't stitch right on the cut part of the fabric. You can't stitch right on the edge of it because, again, it's woven. It will unweave. It won't hold itself together. You need some extra material there. And that material is called seam allowance. Standard seam allowance on most patterns is 5/8 of an inch. I think that's also kind of archaic. I usually use 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, eyeball inch. On pretty much every sewing machine, there's a plate above the bobbin chamber, where the presser foot comes down, that measures when your needle's in that center position. It measures how far out, and it'll show you if you're doing a 5/8 seam allowance. You can just follow that fraction and it will indicate that you're getting that correct seam allowance. Again, you got to make sure your needle's in the center position for that to be accurate. You just otherwise adjust. So in an instance where you have your wrong sides together, you stitch them together for your seam. When you open it up, it's going to stay on that seam where you stitched it. When you open it up, you're now looking at the right sides. And then back here is your raw, those are your raw edges in your seam allowance. Those are raw edges. So that when you're making a garment, a finished garment, not just as incomplete, but also kind of complete, there are multiple ways to finish those edges. So that's another usage of raw edge. I just have one more word and then a distinction between two others. So most of what we're doing is stitching, right? When your machine is sewing, you're stitching. And it is important to lock those into place by backstitching. So when your fabric is going away from you, you're just stitching, you're sewing. When the fabric's coming back towards you, that's called backstitching. I'll show you on my machine how there's a button you can just push down and it back. Sometimes there's a button you push in. Different things on different machines. Maybe look yours up in your manual, either online or if you have the physical one. And yeah, that's backstitching. The other thing I want to make a distinction of, which might be obvious, but when you are ironing something, it's also called pressing it. So we have a presser foot, we have a foot pedal, and we press things. Pressing is iron. Presser foot is the part of your machine that holds your fabric against the teeth that move it through the machine. And then the foot pedal is what you use to make your machine go. Did I forget any? Are there any other sewing terms you've heard that you want to talk about? Any that you either don't know or that you do know and you think others need to know? Let me know in the comments. And that's it. Oh my gosh, you guys! That might be it. Is that it? Are we starting our project next week? Do I tell you what I'm thinking about? I don't think I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking about. Is that mean? Is that gatekeeping? Gape. Am I gatekeeping? Am I? You can tell me. Don't tell me. Tell me nice. You guys have all been pretty nice, except for you guys have mostly been pretty nice. That's it. Those are the words we're going to use as we discuss every one of our sewing projects to keep learning how to sew, Sewing 101, sewing for very, very beginners. Please subscribe. Let's make some fun, but don't make fun, but make some fun. What does that mean? Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like this video. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.